Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm Droozee, and welcome to another Pokemon Yellow solo run. After the absolutely crazy difficult Weedle run, we're getting something a little bit easier today when we get to use Horsea for this playthrough. This seahorse is in the bottom 30 of all Gen 1 Pokemon in terms of base stats, but I'm not too worried about this right now, since the water typing is a huge advantage in the early game. Since we are a water type, we're obviously going to be forcing our rival to evolve into a Jolteon, and this is going to make the run as challenging as possible. To get a Jolteon, we need a win in the lab fight and Rival 1A, and we will do this with only Bubble because that's the only move Horsea gets to start the game. As we take a look at Horsea's learn set, we only get Bubble to start, and that will be the case until level 19 when we get to Smokescreen. And as a whole, Horsea's level up moves aren't that great. We do get access to agility, so the badge boost glitch will be in play later in this run, but other than that, Hydro Pump is really the only other interesting move here. And considering that Hydro Pump isn't even 100% accurate, I'm not even sure we're going to use that. So, as I said earlier, we're only going to have Bubble, so this really isn't much strategy here. This is pressing the A button on Bubble and hoping that we don't get hit with too many tackles. So, after a while, we are able to get a first try victory against our rival here in the lab, and we're well on our way to moving on and fighting him at Rival 1A west of Viridian City. Before we get to that battle though, let's take a look at the TMs Horsea can learn. Looking at the TM list, things get a little bit better than they were with the level up list, but not by that much. For the most part, we don't have access to any really good physical attacking moves. This could be a problem when we run up against the strong special Pokemon like Gengar and Alakazam later in the game, but the special attacks we do have access to are pretty strong. Surf is an incredibly powerful move in Gen 1, and we get stabbed there too, so that makes it even better. Ice Beam and Blizzard are always useful to help take out Lance and give better type coverage, especially in the mid game. So overall, I think the run will probably be pretty fast in the early game, but could run into a few mid game hurdles while we work through Horsea's low base stats to be strong enough to get the wins we need. With that said, you never know how these are going to turn out, so let's see how it goes this time. So things start with Rival Battle 1A to make sure he evolves his Eevee into Jolteon, and this battle shows that Horsea doesn't do great damage, and once Spearow attacks us, it does huge damage. Even though we level up, we still aren't doing a lot of damage to Eevee. In the end, this battle is mostly about getting the right luck to bounce our way, which makes sense because we are using a base 20 power move. This will work fairly well in the early game, but once we get to more difficult trainers, this will not cut it. We do get some good luck here, and I'm okay with that because it is still early in the game, and in runs where we use Vaporeon or Flareon for our rival, we still don't even use this battle. Now that we've beaten our rival, we will now be forcing Jolteon once he evolves it, and that means we can move on to Brock, and unlike the past few runs, I think this one should be pretty easy. And that's exactly how things go. We don't even have full health coming into this battle, and we are never in danger of losing it. One bubble on the Geodude, and then 2 bubbles on the Onix, and with that, Horsea has now earned the Boulder Badge and can continue on its way to Cerulean City. It's nice to have a Pokemon that's so easy to take down Brock. We haven't had one this easy since Dugtrio, so it's a nice change of pace, especially after the Weedle run and the Coughing run, where it was an absolute brutal grind to get past. Once we get to Cerulean, we're going to take on Rival 2 first. We only have water attacks, and while we do have Water Gun thanks to the TM in Mount Moon, it's still a weak attack. Even though it isn't a great move, it is still enough to take out Spearow pretty easily, partially due to a huge crit. We then take out Sandshrew with one Water Gun, and Rattata gets a big Hyper Fang on us before we take the rat down. Eevee's out last, and we're able to spam our Water Gun to get the win. Now we have the option to either go to the SSAN or battle Misty. Because we'll have gained a few levels battling the trainers north of town, and we'll have Smokescreen on our side, I decide to take on Misty first. This fight's a bit interesting because Misty has good AI, and this means that even if her water attacks would do more damage, she's only going to be using Tackle or X Defense since it's normal effective on our Horsea. After setting up a couple of smoke screens, we begin to spam Water Gun against the Staryu. We aren't doing great damage, but a crit near the end does huge damage to speed up the battle and head on to Starmie. With Starmie out, we're going to set up a few smoke screens because Starmie will either go for Harden or Tackle, or Misty will use an X Defend. With our setup in place, we switch to spamming Water Gun to whittle down the Psychic Starfish. It ends up taking 11 Water Guns to get the KO. I thought it would be 12, but towards the end, we get a lucky crit, and that saves us one attack. But while this battle is a bit lengthy, It was never in any jeopardy of being a loss thanks to Smokescreen and the fact that Misty won't attack with her strongest moves. This is a perfect example of when good AI actually makes a Gen 1 opponent much easier than it should be. With Misty defeated, we now have access to Bubble Beam, and this is another upgrade to our moveset, so we're going to teach it immediately before we make our way to the SS Anne and our rival number 3 battle. Now that we have Bubble Beam, we're going to be in a much better place for a lot of our battles, because this is so much stronger than Water Gun and way stronger than Bubble. We really get to see this in the rival 3 battle on the SS Anne. Before, we had Water Gun and things were a little bit dicey. Here with Bubble Beam, not at all. We outspeed all of our rivals' team at this point, and his Spearow, Rattata, and Sandshrew are all one-shots with Bubble Beam. Eevee comes out last, and although it hangs on, we're still doing over half damage, and he goes for a Tail Whip, so we're able to knock out the Eevee on the next turn, securing us a damageless victory over our rival. Now that means we can make our way to get cut and move on to Surge. And Surge is not a fun battle for Horsea. We are underleveled and we don't outspeed, and even though I do get good luck here on our first attempt with a crit and him using X-Speed, we can still only really withstand 2 attacks, and that's if he doesn't use Thunderbolt. This makes this battle incredibly difficult and a bit luck-based since we are relying on lowering his accuracy with Smokescreen. This is really helpful for Mega Punch and Mega Kick because they already aren't 100% accurate anyway, and it eventually did take 4 attempts, but we do get the successful battle when we take a big Mega Punch on us, but then Raichu either misses his punches and kicks or uses Growl for the remainder of the battle, so we're able to get off 4 Bubble Beams and knock it out to earn our 3rd badge. Now that we've beaten Surge, we can make our way through Rock Tunnel and over to Celadon City, where we can stop by the department store and we can pick up a freshwater to give to the girl, and she's going to trade us TM13, which is Ice Beam, and that's going to be huge, and we'll immediately teach that to Horsea in place of Water Gun. Ice Beam is going to give us a bit more type coverage, especially against the upcoming Grass Gym, but also just other flying types and other things that we're going to be seeing around this part of the game as well. We've also picked up a Soda Pop for the Saffron Guards this time, because today I felt like they needed some carbonation to get through the day. Now we're going to fast forward to the Rocket Hideout, and we're going into the Giovanni battle at about 2/3 health and poisoned. This isn't going to be a problem at all for this battle though. Onix is a one-shot with Bubble Beam, and so is Rhyhorn. Both were critical hits, but those really didn't matter. After the 2 rock ground types, Persian is out, and we are going to continue to spam Bubble Beam. It does take 3 hits to get the KO, so we are going to take 2 turns of poison damage and a critical hit payday before we take down the Persian, but even with that, we still weren't even in red health. Horsea is surprisingly strong right now, and it's definitely outperforming its poor base stats. With the Rocket Crime Boss defeated, we grab the Sylph Scope and make our way to Erica to see how we stack up against the Grass Gym. We're going to see how strong Ice Beam is, and we end up getting a critical hit with Ice Beam against Tangela to take it down, and we will end up getting a chance to see if that critical hit matters, because as Ice Beam doesn't take out Weepinbell, we get put to sleep. Razor Leaf does huge damage, almost one-shotting us, so we don't wake up and are easily taken out on the next turn. So we're clearly going to need some more levels to make that consistent, so we're going to head on over to Rival 4 in Pokemon Tower instead. Ice Beam takes out Fearow in a single hit, and we don't have a type answer for Shelter, but because Shelter has such a low special stat, we're going to be able to take it down with 2 attacks, one being Ice Beam, finishing it off with Bubble Beam. Vulpix and Sandslash are the next 2 out, and both are easy opponents and go down quickly to our super effective Bubble Beam. That brings out Eevee last, and thanks to a critical hit, we get the one-shot KO and win the battle. While we do level up, we're still not going to be in a great place to take on Erica, so I'm going to head down to Fuchsia, pick up the HM for Surf in the Safari Zone, and head off to face some of the mandatory trainers along the path before we end up coming back to Erica at level 39. Even though we're at a higher level, Ice Beam still doesn't take out Tangela in one hit without a crit, so it does matter. We are able to take it out, but we've taken a Vine Whip. Weepinbell is out next, and we don't take it down with Ice Beam. Razor Leaf hits, but it doesn't crit, so we survive, making it onto Gloom. We go for an Ice Beam, and we get a crit. That takes out the Smelly Flower. And with that, we've beaten Erica, and we've claimed our 4th badge. With Erica defeated, our options are now either Rival 5-0, which I don't think will go very well thanks to his Jolteon, or Koga and his overleveled Venonats and Venomoth. I choose to go for Koga, and while it does take a few tries, mostly thanks to Venonats hitting long-lasting sleeps on us, eventually we get things to go our way in this battle here. The 3 Venonats are all going to be 2-hit KOs. I'm using Ice Beam at first to hopefully get a lucky freeze. We don't get him in any of these battles here, but with Surf, we're an easy takedown. I stick with Surf on the 3rd Venonat, and we get a critical hit, which is fantastic. So we're going into Venomoth with high health, but it outspeeds us, sets up a double team, then hits us with a Psychic, and we're not in a great place, and we got the lucky freeze that we needed. That allows us to take our time taking out Venomoth, getting our 5th of 8 badges, and I think it's an easy decision from here. We're going to be heading down to Cinnabar to face Blaine now. With our type advantage and gaining his special boost, it'll be very helpful against Rival 5 and for the rest of the run. While we will have that big type advantage over Blaine, our big issue is that we're going to be very underleveled for his team. And it's going to show in our first attempt here with just how little damage we're doing and how much damage we're taking when a flamethrower that's not a critical hit hits us for 1/3 of our health. We are able to eventually take out the Ninetales, but it's pretty clear right now we're getting outsped, and this is not going to end very well as a Stomp takes us out. After making quick work of the trainers in Blaine's gym, we're now starting at level 43. We still aren't going to be knocking out the Ninetales in one hit unless we get a crit, and we don't here, but we only get attacked once, and that's about as best case scenario as we can hope for. We level up and Rapidash comes out next. Fire Spin misses us, we hit Surf, and it goes into red health. It goes for a Growl, which fails, and we take it out with another Surf. Arcanine is last, and it uses Fire Blast for big damage on us. We aren't going to be able to take another one of those, but our Surf does over half, and then Blaine decides to go for Reflect, so our Surf hits, and that gives us our 6th gym badge. This is great because now we have all the badge boosts unlocked, so we'll be stronger and be able to take full advantage of the badge boost glitch from here on out, including our upcoming battle with rival number 5. For those of you who don't know, the badge boost glitch occurs when you raise your stats in Gen 1, and basically the intended badge boosts are reapplied. This means when we raise our speed with agility, we're also boosting our defense, attack, and special too. In our battle against rival 5, we start by taking out Sandslash with Surf, leveling up in the process. This is important because we don't want to lose our badge boosts if we level up during the battle. With Ninetales out next, this is where we want to take the chance to set up since it really can't do much damage to us. Once we've set up our 3 agilities, we can then get a bonus boost when Ninetales uses Tail Whip, and that completes our setup. We switch to the offensive, taking out the Ninetales with Surf. Cloyster's now a 2-shot, and it misses Supersonic, so we avoid confusion as we take it out in the next turn. Kadabra's out next, and even with its high special, our setup gives us enough strength to one-shot it. Now up against Jolteon, and this is where the setup is most crucial, but our Surf doesn't quite take it out, bring it to red health. Thundershock takes us to around half before we clear the path to Giovanni, and this was a really frustrating battle that took much longer to prepare for than I would have liked, so I'm really nervous about what the champion battle is going to look like when his Jolteon has Thunderbolt and Thunder to choose from. But that's a problem for future Droozee, and right now we have to take care of Giovanni. We don't even bother to heal after Rival 5 or the Team Rocket, Jesse, and James battle. So we're just under half health for this one. Nidorino's a 1-shot thanks to a crit Ice Beam. Persian's a 2-shot with Ice Beam. Rhyhorn is an obvious 1-shot with Surf. And now all we have left is Nidoqueen. One more Surf takes out the Nidoqueen, and we can now make our way to Sabrina for our next gym battle. I'm nervous about accuracy drops with Abra's Flash, so we go for Surf and it takes 2 turns, but we get a little bit of good luck when both flashes from Abra miss. And that's going to bring out Kadabra next, and we're going to try to set up our agility to hopefully outspeed, but we end up paying for it when we get hit by the largest Psywave I've ever seen. That Psywave made it look like this could actually be a viable move. I decide to finish up the setup while Sabrina goes for 2 consecutive full health recovers because Gen 1 AI is so amazing, and from there a couple of Surfs take out Abra. Alakazam is out last, and our Surf is doing around half, so maybe it's a 2-hit KO. It sets up Reflect, our next Surf takes it down to a Sliver, but it hangs on, uses Recover. Another Surf almost takes it down, but it sets up Reflect. Finally, we hit another Surf to take it out, and that gives us our 7th gym badge, and this is a great example of where the weirdness of Gen 1 AI really comes into play. A recovery at full health, multiple reflects, so many strange things. We also get Psywave, and of course we're going to throw that away faster than you can say waste of a TM, and travel to Viridian City to take on Giovanni for our 8th and final badge. Surprisingly, Giovanni is not a guaranteed win, and this is mainly because Persian Slash is so strong. In our first attempt, it sets up double team, we miss a Surf, and then it takes us down with a couple of slashes. The good thing about the Giovanni battle is that that wasn't his normal MO for him. As we see here, he loves to go for other moves like Fisher with Dugtrio, and luckily it allows us to miss. It is a 70% chance to miss, and that allows us to move on to Persian without taking damage. He goes for Fury Swipes this time, and our Surf hits. Next it goes for Double Team, but we hit this time, and the Fancy Cat goes down. Nidoqueen's out next, and our Surf doesn't quite get the job done. This allows the Nidoqueen to hit us with a big Thunder, and we survive with 1 HP. That is so crazy. I couldn't believe we survived it. Nidoking's out after we take it out, and it also holds on, but its Thunder misses, allowing us to take it out with Surf. All we have to do is outspeed Rhydon, and of course we do, taking it out, winning the battle with 1 HP. I guess technically 4 because we leveled up, but that is crazy. But even crazier than surviving with 1 HP is that was a battle with Giovanni that used 0 guard specs. He's going to get a talking to from his agent after that one for sure. You can't be dissing your sponsors like that. With the gym challenge completed, we can now make our way to the Indigo Plateau and the Elite Four, but you know we've got one last rival fight first. This time, his Jolteon has much better moves, so we could be in for some trouble. We do have some pretty good answer for the rest of his team though, starting with Sandslash, and of course, Sandslash is going to go down to a single Slurf. Now, he'll also have Execute though, and we do have another answer, and that time it's Ice Beam. Execute goes down to a single Ice Beam, and now we're moving on to his Ninetales. Again, we're going to use this opportunity to set up our agilities and set up our badge boosts, and after our setup is complete, we're going to switch to Surf and take it down with a single hit. Cloyster's going to come out next, and our Surf is going to crit, so our badge boosts are ignored, but we're still doing over half damage, and that's going to make this an easy 2-shot as Cloyster misses a Supersonic. Kadabra's out next, and its high special makes it a 2-shot, but luckily it went for Reflect, so we're still at full health heading into Jolteon. We did level up though, so all our badge boosts are now gone. Not a great situation. Our Surf looks like it might be doing just under half, so it might be a 2-hit KO if we crit. We don't get it though. It hits a Thunderbolt, gets a critical hit Thunder, and that's the end of this attempt. On our second attempt at the battle, things go pretty similarly to start. Sandslash is still a one-shot with Surf, as is Execute with Ice Beam. So we've started off with our 2 one-shots, and now we're heading into Ninetales. We're still going to set up our agilities against the Ninetales, and after we finish our 3 agilities, we've actually had the exact same number of badge boosts as well because it got a Tail Whip in there as well. So, with that out of the way and our setup complete, we take out the Ninetales with a Surf to bring out Cloyster. This time, we are to a little bit lower health because we've taken some hits and supersonic hits, and now we're confused. Luckily, we avoid confusion for the most part until we come up with a Kadabra, who sets up Reflect, and we continue to hit ourselves in confusion multiple times. We break through confusion, and we hit a big Surf, but we also take a Psy Wave, taking us down to 8 health. And now we're on to Jolteon. We're going to need a little bit of luck here. Thunder misses, Surf hits a couple of times, Thunder Wave paralyzes, finally another Thunder miss, and we avoid paralysis, and we end up taking out a rival. And that means we can make our way onto the Elite Four. But man, that was close. I think the rival is going to be our biggest challenge heading into the Elite Four this run, because both Alakazam and Jolteon could be very strong against us and cause us a lot of problems. As I typically like to do, we're going to find out pretty quickly how Horsea is going to stack up against the Elite Four. And of course that starts with Ice Trainer Lorelei. I arrived at the league at level 51, and it becomes clear we're going to need some more levels here. We have 2 damaging attacks, and they're both resisted by Dugong, so we're having a horrible time because it uses Rest to heal anytime we make any progress on it. Even once we have set up our badge boosts with agility, we're still looking at maybe a 4-hit KO right now, and it is an absolute grind to try to take down this Dugong. At one point, we get into a cycle where Lorelei uses multiple retroactive super potions in a row before the Dugong finally takes a takedown instead and takes it into red health, and that allows us to take it out. But we've taken huge damage ourselves, and that's not looking great going into the Cloyster. We level up heading into the Cloyster, which makes things even worse, so now we don't even have badge boosts. Cloyster hits us with a Supersonic, and our Surf is going to be a 4-hit KO anyway. After a couple turns hitting ourselves in confusion and a Spike Cannon from Cloyster, we eventually go down. It's pretty clear we're going to need some more levels. Good thing we've got some rare candies, and we've got a couple ways to train really quickly thanks to some of the rock Pokemon in Victory Road. Our next attempt comes at level 62, which is 11 levels higher than our arrival. Things go much better for us overall, and Dugong is much more consistent now. We start with an Ice Beam to do a little bit of damage, and the Dugong usually goes for Rest after that. From there, we're able to get our agility set up while the Dugong takes a nap. Because of the way rest works, it will always wake up after 2 turns, so we need to have it rest again to complete our setup, but this thing loves to rest so much it's really not a problem. Once we have our 3rd agility set up, we can switch to 3-hit KO the Dugong, so even if it uses rest, it went for takedown here, but we still get a knockout. Cloyster's next, it will either use Spike Cannon or Supersonic. Supersonic miss is the best case, but Spike Cannon like we get here isn't too bad. Eventually we can 2-hit KO the Cloyster to bring out Slowbro, and this Slowbro is a major problem. You see, Lorelei has good AI, and in this case, unlike most times in Gen 1, it's really good. Because good AI, this Slowbro will use either Psychic or Amnesia, and this is an awful outcome because even if we mimic Amnesia ourselves, it usually will boost at about the same rate we can, and things get worse because our Psychic can lower our special, and if that wasn't enough, each Amnesia raises Slowbro's ability to tank our hits because our Horsea only has special attacks. This Slowbro was an absolute wall, and it was very frustrating to face repeatedly, trying to come up with a somewhat consistent strategy against it. Thankfully for us, this is the first battle of the Elite Four, so I get a lot of chances to try to come up with something that would work, and if we lose, we get an instant rematch. So there isn't too much to talk about with the first 2 matchups. Lorelei can be annoying using retroactive super potions to delay Dugong getting knocked out, but there really isn't a problem here. Cloyster is still going to be a 2-hit just like before, and so we're pretty much always going to make it to Slowbro. When we get there, we mimic Amnesia and use 1, and then Slowbro does the same thing. And then we get a series of events in which Slowbro never uses Psychic and just keeps going for Amnesia. This is definitely not a likely occurrence, and it's a strange anomaly here, but I'll take it, and we're able to move on, eventually whittling down the Slowbro. But yeah, I can't be relying on this many 50% chances in a row to consistently get past Slowbro in the future. Jinx comes out next. We're going to take a couple chances to set up Amnesia, especially after it goes for Thrash, and it could have gotten really bad if it would have went for Lovely Kiss, but I decided to take a little bit of a risk there, set up and use Surf to finish it out. Lapras comes out next. We get a crit, so we're not doing as much damage. Body Slam doesn't do too much because of our badge boosts, and our next Surf takes out the Lapras. And that gets us our first win against Lorelei and able to face Bruno in our next battle against the Elite Four. Second try victory over Lorelei is pretty good here, so things are looking up for Horsea's Elite Four run prospects. And with that win over Lorelei, we can now shift our attention to Agatha. I mean, like I said, we technically have to beat Bruno too, but we have a foolproof strategy to beat Bruno. It's called pressing the A button when he sends out a Pokemon. Seriously, this is an absolute joke of a battle for Horsea. Every single one of Bruno's Pokemon is a one-shot with Surf in this battle except for Machamp, and there's simply no way we lose this battle without some crazy events that would involve many Gen 1 misses and crits against us to happen. We've had some easy Bruno battles in this series so far. This one is right up there with the rest of them. With the worst Elite Four member out of the way, we can now move on to Agatha after healing and restoring some of our PP, and unlike Bruno, Agatha can actually be pretty tricky. See, Agatha is such a troll and she loves using moves that just make things so inconsistent. Whether it's using Confusion or Paralysis from Lick, it's just very annoying when you end up getting status by her. Parafusion is such an annoying state to deal with anyway because it feels like you can just never get an attack off. In this one, she starts off by using Confuse Ray, and even though we do hit ourselves in Confusion, we're not that strong and our attack is pretty low, so we're not taking too much damage. Once Agatha decides she's done being a troll for a little bit, we're able to do enough damage to the Gengar, and after it uses some substitutes and we break through them, we're able to knock it out and we're able to move on to the Golbat. And Ice Beam is going to just barely be too weak here, and it's super annoying. Luckily, the Golbat usually goes for Wing Attack, and that's not too bad for us, and we can simply take it out with another Ice Beam to bring out the Haunter. This time with the Haunter out, it is no problem as it uses Dream Eater while we're awake, and I'm not punished for a misclick Ice Beam when Surf would have likely taken it out in 2 hits. With Haunter down, Arbok's next as we level up, and now we're about half health for the rest of this battle. We get a crit Surf, which makes it a one-shot. I definitely think the crit mattered with that one, but we're now on to the second Gengar, and I get hit with Confuse Ray, but we avoid confusion damage. I get Mimic. Took some time to decide, but I went with Hypnosis because of the power of sleep in Gen 1. And then we have a crazy sequence that you're seeing now where we get put to sleep several times and wake up at the perfect time to avoid a Dream Eater. And that is crazy luck for us. but we eventually get our sleep to set in on Gengar, and it's only after I use my first Surf that I see it's doing over a third with each attack, making this a 3-hit KO, and that is definitely a better strategy here, but you live and learn. These are always my first playthroughs with these Pokemon, so you're seeing a lot of learnings live as I go through these. So, with Agatha out of the way, we're now able to make our way to Lance. I don't think that Lance is going to be too much of a problem for us in this run, because outside of his Gyarados, his entire team is going to be weak to our Ice Beam. We aren't talking Bruno level of bad here, so we are still going to be healing and restoring PP before the battle. But with our short prep complete and walking through the excessively long hallway between Agatha and Lance done, we start our battle with the Dragon Master. Our battle with Gyarados goes fantastically as we do great damage, taking him down to red health, triggering a retroactive Hyper Potion, and then our attack after that gets a freeze, and that is a perfect outcome. We can now set up our agilities for free as we finish it off with Surf. Now we're going to outspeed the rest of his team easily and sweep with Ice Beam. Dragonair number 1 goes down, Dragonair number 2 goes down. We also outspeed Aerodactyl, and it also goes down to a single Ice Beam. We level up, so we lose those badge boost glitch, but it doesn't matter. Dragonite is an easy one-shot with Ice Beam. We got a critical hit that didn't matter. Our Ice Beam's 4 times super effective, and just like that, we're now on our way to the champion in our second realistic attempt at the league with Horsea. We're obviously going to heal ourselves and restore our PP after the battle and prepare for a tough battle ahead. We've had problems with our rival ever since he got his Jolteon, and I don't think that's going to change now, but you never know how these battles are going to go, and unless you're facing Bruno, it's always going to be a challenge. So, let's cue up that champion battle music and see if Horsea can make its way into the Hall of Fame and end this run. Our rival starts off with Sandslash, and Surf makes short work of it, getting the battle started for us with a one-hit KO. Alakazam is going to be out next, and things do not go well here. It hits a Psybeam for okay damage, and I go for Ice Beam hoping for a chance for a freeze. It doesn't come through though, and we take a beating when Alakazam uses Psychic, and we get a Special Drop. We're going to be in red health now, but the Special Drop activated the badge boost glitch, so we do outspeed, and our next Ice Beam gets a clutch freeze. That is perfect timing for that, and with Alakazam frozen, we can now take time to set up a bit and grab recover for the rest of this fight. Things are looking pretty good for Horsea after all here. After we take our sweet time healing up, we get back to full setup with our agilities, and then we finish off the Alakazam, and that's going to move us on to Exeggutor. Thanks to good AI, the Exeggutor is only ever going to use Leech Seed against us. While it's annoying, it basically makes Exeggutor a free win, and we are able to take out the Walking Palm Tree over the course of 3 turns. This brings out Cloyster next, and thanks to Leech Seed, this is probably going to be a 4 or 5 hit KO, and we are getting hit with Spike Cannon the first couple turns as well, and sometimes this even gets a crit, which makes us have to use Recover to heal up so we don't accidentally get knocked out here. This whole cycle basically repeats itself again, and eventually we are able to take out the Cloyster, move on to Ninetales, but this is taking a lot longer than I would have liked, and this Leech Seed is starting to show why it's so important that we try to avoid that if at all possible, knowing that it's going to be very difficult if it takes multiple turns to take out Exeggutor. As we officially finish off Cloyster here, we're going to be moving on to Ninetales, and we're going to level up between Cloyster and Ninetales. I wasn't really thinking about my experience heading into this one, so our boosts are gone outside of the expected speed and a boost from agility. This could be a problem if we make it to Jolteon. I recover at first turn against Ninetales and uses Tail Whip followed by a Quick Attack, which doesn't do too much damage to us. We hit Surf, and I was expecting a one-shot, but I remembered we had a Special Drop against Alakazam, so we only did 2/3 damage against Ninetales. Instead of finishing it off, tried to play it safe with Confuse Ray. Fortunately for us, we avoid hitting ourselves in confusion, get the knockout, and we make our way to Jolteon, the only Pokemon standing between us and the Hall of Fame. Our Surf only does about 1/3 damage, we get hit with a Thunder, and it is super effective, and it one-shots us, ending our run. Ugh, that does not make me feel good. We were so close and had some things bounce our way, and it still didn't work out for us. The good news is that while Slowbro is an absolute beast and can end most runs, it is basically the gatekeeper to the champion. We lost to this thing so many times, but on our next run attempt that we actually did beat the Slowbro, which was like 5 or 6 attempts later, we defeated Lance, and we got ready for our rematch with the champion. This time I use a rare candy before the battle to prevent us from leveling up and still keeping our badge boosts intact as long as possible. With this little change, I hope we're in a better position, and we're going to get ready to queue up the champion battle theme once again and try for a second time to get into the Hall of Fame. Of course, if you're looking at the timestamp of this video, you probably know how this goes already. This is the best attempt at the champion we had at level 62. Starting off with the Surf one-shot against Sandslash, Kinesis misses with Alakazam, and our Ice Beam gets a freeze, allowing us to get a free setup. And even with all of these things going our way, which was very rare to begin with, we still don't make it past the Jolteon, because all it takes is one hit from Thunder and we're going to go down unless we have near perfect health. So I tried this battle so many times with the champion, took so long to get back to it because of that slow bro, and I ended up losing to the champion over 10 times, and we lost at least one time to every single one of his team members at some point because we're trying out different strategies and seeing if something will make it work a little bit better than before. And it just was not happening. So to me, that meant that while it was probably possible to finish at level 62 start, it just wasn't going to be consistent enough strategy. So we're going to need a little bit more training, and eventually we'll come back to League a little bit higher level, and you'll see that attempt here. But you'll see that Thunder from Jolteon is enough to take us out from almost full health every single time right now. And so we're going to need to come back with a little bit better strategy in mind. So this is the first attempt you're seeing when we're coming in with a level 65 start. Things really all depend on beating Slowbro still, and once we take down that Gatekeeper, we make short work of the rest of Lorelei's team. This thing can almost always end the run, like we've said before, and eventually I discovered the most consistent way to stop it was to get a freeze on it. If we got a freeze like we do right here, we're able to take it out every single time, and we're able to beat Lorelei almost every single time unless we get some really bad crit luck. And if we beat Lorelei, as I mentioned before, Bruno is no competition at all, so we're likely going to make it to Agatha. And while Agatha can be pretty annoying, she usually isn't too bad, and the same goes for Lance, who can only trouble us with his Gyarados. We've already gone over how terrible Bruno is, so that is an obvious victory that you're going to be seeing now. And then we're going to be moving on to Agatha. While Agatha can be pretty annoying, she usually isn't too bad, and the same typically goes for Lance too, who can really only trouble us with his Gyarados. We've already gone over how terrible Bruno is, so that is an obvious victory, and Agatha is up next now, and although Golbat is still a damage range, Agatha decides to do a lot of switching in this battle, making things way easier than they typically are against her. Outside of the switching by Agatha though, we really didn't get that great of luck here, and we had a lot of things that were really close to one-hit KOs that just didn't quite make it, and we even got hit with a critical hit Psychic from her Gengar number 2, and we still got the win. The extra couple of levels we have really makes a big difference here in this battle. Lance is up next, and like I said earlier, Gyarados is really the only threat on his team here. If we get a freeze, we'll be in really good condition, and that's exactly what we get here. And that means that we're just going to be able to set up, and we'll be able to sweep through the rest of his team with Ice Beam. Dragonair number 1 is down, Dragon number 2 is down, Aerodactyl is down, Dragonite comes out last, Ice Beam takes it down, we level up to level 68. That means that after our rare candy, we'll be going into the championship battle at level 69. We're going to be avoiding any leveling up during the battle, that way we'll keep our badge boosts intact, and nothing against Horsea, but I'm ready for a new Pokemon, so I'm hoping we get the victory here. Hopefully for the last time, we queue up the champion battle music and see if we finish this run, which starts off with a Surf one-shot against Sandslash. Alakazam is out next, and Recover is incredibly important as well. So against Alakazam, we mimic it on the first turn, and we get it for free after Alakazam does a classic Gen 1 full health Recover. We get Psybeam on turn 2, and we don't get confused, which is still a good outcome for us. And Surf is looking like it's going to probably be a 2-shot on Alakazam, and luckily we miss a Kinesis there, and that opens up the door so we can knock out Alakazam, moving on to Exeggutor. We go for Ice Beam hoping for a freeze, we don't get it, and we get hit with Leech Seed. Not the greatest outcome, but it's not too bad overall, and we take out the Walking Palm Tree. Cloyster's out next, and this is where we're going to start setting up a little bit. The basic key to our strategy here is healing whenever we get into a potentially dangerous situation, where a 5-turn critical hit Spike Cannon and Leech Seed could end up knocking us out. I know this sounds crazy and probably way too conservative, but after battling our rival this many times, we're in the double digits now, I'm not ready to take another loss if I can avoid it. We set up here against Cloyster because it really isn't able to do too much to us, and honestly, this part of the battle is mainly more annoying than it is anything else. Between the Leech Seed animation and text and the multi-turn attacks with Spike Cannon, this battle against Cloyster just drags on for such a long time. This is only made worse because, for whatever reason, animations are always turned on in the final battle. Sometimes this is a fun twist at the end of a run, but today it isn't something I'm particularly enjoying. Once we are fully set up and we do attack, we're doing over half, but with Leech Seed, this still could be a 3-hit KO range. Our health is getting a bit low again, so we need to recover, and now you're seeing why Mimic against Alakazam is so important. And because I've taken so long between my attacks with Surf, Cloyster is definitely going to need 2 more attacks at this point. I want to point out that this is being played at 4 times speed, and it still takes almost a minute and a half before we're able to finally take out this Cloyster. As it hits us with what seems like the millionth Spike Cannon, we finally hit our last Surf to get the knockout and bring out Ninetales. Like we've seen before, this Ninetales really can't do much to us, so I go for Recover and hope for a Tail Whip and another badge boost on our special. And it gets it, but it fails, so it means no more badge boost for us, and a Surf knocks it out and we're on to Jolteon. We go for Surf, and it does big damage. It does over half. Now we just need a miss, and we get hit with Thunder. But we hold on. That is fantastic, and that Surf hits. We didn't get a Gen 1 miss, and that means we get the win, and we are making our way to the Hall of Fame, and Horsea has officially earned its place on our tier list. Man, I thought we were done when that Thunder hit us. That was such a fun final battle, and I really enjoyed this run overall. The Elite Four was a bit frustrating, but that was mainly because of Lorelei more than anything else. I think this was one of the first cases where the champion's Eevee-lution had a significant impact on the outcome of the run as well. Horsea did surprisingly well considering its limited move pool, and it ended at level 70. Our final time of 5 hours and 40 minutes is pretty good as well, and we're going to see where we put that on the tier list, but I think it's pretty clear it's going to go right below Chansey. It's a little bit slower and a little bit higher level, so it seems like an obvious place to put Horsea right now. All things considered, I think that's a pretty respectable place for a Pokemon in the bottom 20% of total base stats. It has me really excited for future runs with water Pokemon now. With Horsea safely on our list, it's time to figure out who the next challenger will be, and that means we're bringing our good friend the Wheel for a spin. As the wheel slows down, we figure out that our next challenger is going to be Nidoqueen. Interesting, this is an exciting one. I'm really looking forward to it. This is the first multi-evolution Pokemon of the series, and the Nidos are known for being really strong in Gen 1. I'm really excited to start this one. Before that though, I do have something special coming, and that's part of the reason for the long delay between these last videos, so be on the lookout for that soon. Until next time, if you liked the video, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified when the newest videos get released. If you have any ideas on how to make these runs more entertaining or more interesting, please let me know in the comments below as well. Thanks, that's all from me today, and until next time, I'm Droozee, and I hope to see you again soon.